An eyeglass lens company had a system crash in 2024 and nearly paralyzed the global chip supply chain. Even the foundry giant TSMC broke into a cold sweat because of it. This is the company many people choose when getting their glasses, Japan's HOYA. But here's the strange part. Has HOYA mastered some new tech? How did a semiconductor outsider become an invisible champion of the industry? Speaking of lithography, we must mention ASML and their exclusive EUV machines. It costs up to $200 million, but whether it's the leader, TSMC, or rivals, Samsung and Intel, if they want to stay in the chip war, they have to wait in line for ASML to deliver. But did you know, whether it's this pricey EUV or the previous DUV machines, without HOYA's optical glass acting as the original film, the whole process can't even start. This unassuming glass is technically called a mask blank. Simply put, before lithography, engineers use an extremely complex process to engrave the chip design onto this blank glass substrate. Now it has been upgraded into what we call a photomask. Next, the mask is sent into the machine, where light copies the circuit pattern and projects it precisely onto the wafer. After repeating this dozens of times, a chip is born. But if that original glass substrate has even one tiny flaw, during exposure, this flaw will be copied to the wafer along with the circuit design. The result is a scrapped wafer. So the question is, such a high-tech mask blank and our daily eyeglass lenses are like things from two parallel worlds. How did HOYA develop this new tech tree? Let's go back to 1973. Back then, HOYA was just focused on eyeglass lenses, but then the oil crisis hit and threw all of Japan into chaos. Oil prices skyrocketed, inflation spiraled out of control, and everyone was panic buying daily essentials. Who had spare cash for new glasses? At this critical turning point, HOYA's leader, Tetsuo Suzuki, proposed a new strategy: be a big fish in a small pond. Basically, find an overlooked niche market with high technical barriers and become the absolute leader there. Right then, Japan's chip industry was taking off. NEC, Fujitsu, and Hitachi all urgently needed local mask blank suppliers. Plus, lithography machines back then used standard UV light, so the requirements for mask blanks weren't as extreme as they are today. Conveniently, HOYA's specialty was precision polishing, helping this semiconductor outsider finally break into the mask blank market. By the 1990s, light sources evolved from UV to DUV. Competition intensified between ASML, Canon, and Nikon. What about HOYA? They struck gold by finding a material called synthetic quartz glass. It was almost perfectly transparent, allowing DUV light to pass through for superior exposure results. This made HOYA the king of the DUV era. But what truly made them legendary was the next generation, EUV. Compared to DUV, EUV wavelengths are 10 times shorter. This allows for even finer circuits. For ASML, which was still battling Canon and Nikon, this was a chance to crush the competition. So they took a gamble to develop brand new EUV machines to directly replace DUV. They teamed up with HOYA to tackle this together. But the practical difficulty turned out to be hell level. EUV has a very tricky property. It is absorbed by almost everything, including quartz glass mask blanks. Light couldn't pass through, so it couldn't engrave circuits. This meant the new EUV blank had to be a super reflector that reflects light precisely until it hits the wafer. But HOYA built on transparency, having spent a lifetime on light transmission. Now they had to do the exact opposite, build the ultimate reflection mirror. Even worse, this mirror could not have a single defect, or it would distort the light and ruin the entire chip. Luckily, HOYA engineers had a craftsman spirit. They spent nearly 20 years testing molybdenum and silicon materials to create a specialized multi-layer coating. It matched ASML's EUV machines perfectly, reflecting light with extreme precision to engrave tiny, unprecedented circuits. By 2018, TSMC and Samsung began using these latest EUV machines, pushing chip processes from 7 nanometers all the way to today's 2 nanometers. ASML now monopolizes high-end lithography, and HOYA has evolved into an indispensable strategic partner. HOYA successfully became the big fish in the semiconductor pond, but as the pond grows, the fish must face new challenges. As EUV machines became standard for TSMC, Intel, and Samsung, EUV mask blanks became a massive market. This led to other companies seeing HOYA as their primary rival. The first to jump out and challenge were Shin-Etsu Chemical and AGC. Shin-Etsu is the global king of wafers and a giant in the photoresist market. They also control the key raw material, synthetic quartz. Basically, they control everything from raw materials to chemicals. As for AGC, they are even more aggressive. They are one of the world's largest glass makers. They invested billions in expansion, using mass production to wage a price war against HOYA. They even vowed to grab 50% market share. This race isn't just among Japanese firms. In 2019, Japan restricted exports of chip materials to Korea. Korea and Samsung refused to be controlled, so they decided to build their own. They pushed S&S Tech to join the battle. One is a chemical giant with a full chain advantage, a glass giant spending heavily to expand, and a government-backed Korean team. All are fighting for the EUV mask blank market, a $1.2 billion pie with over 50% profit. But guess what their combined share is? Less than 30%. The remaining 70% is held firmly by HOYA alone. Everything is held firmly in the hands of HOYA alone. This over-reliance on a single vendor is like a ticking time bomb buried in the global chip supply chain, and it went off in March 2024. HOYA was hit by a hacker group called Hunders International. Using malicious encryption software, they paralyzed the systems of several departments. This caused a massive backup in both production and shipping. The hackers even threatened that if HOYA didn't pay a $10 million ransom, they would keep the files locked and leak all the stolen trade secrets to the public. At that point, every major chip maker relying on HOYA panicked, because they all knew that while inventory might last for now, if the situation continued, an EUV mask blank shortage was just a matter of time. Fortunately, 3 weeks later, HOYA regained control of their systems, allowing production lines to run again. The secrets threatened to be leaked luckily never appeared on the dark web. But this proved that in the semiconductor industry, it's not just about one single giant. Everyone is in the same boat. They all need each other. This is exactly why even without the world's largest foundry, Japan still has high-level bargaining power internationally. From HOYA making mask blanks, to Ajinomoto making ABF film, to Shin-Etsu making photoresists, Japan controls the most critical upstream steps. In 2022, Japan passed the Economic Security Act to protect chips as a national strategic asset. Just recently, China showed its frustration by weaponizing rare earth exports, making the whole world nervous. But Japan holds its own trump cards, because China's chip-making can't survive without Japan. So, what lessons does Japan's strategy hold for Taiwan? How many invisible champions like HOYA does Taiwan actually have? Let's discuss in the comments.